Rev up your engines!
Well, Lotus is at it now. They unveiled an all-electric car. It's a four-door Hyper GT. It goes 0 to 100 kilometers in under 2.8 seconds. That's 0 to like 62 miles an hour in under 2.8 seconds. That is wicked fast. It's called the Emeya. Now, I don't know what it is with electric cars, but please, people, will you come up with some better names? Emeya. What kind of a name is that, you know? It's an English company. Use a real English word that got a little flair to it, right? Lotus itself has a good name, right? But Emeya, now, hilariously enough, it is Lotus, but guess what? They're all made in China. Lotus says it's transitioning to only make electric cars now. For the vast majority of us, it means absolutely nothing because Lotus made fancy little zippy little cars for rich people, you know, and they never sold that many cars. You know, it's just it's a performance thing. It's kind of snob value, right? But you get the name Lotus, but actually an electric car all made in China. And of course, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's an air suspension system that's electronically controlled with sensors that can monitor the road 1,000 times each second. So it should handle really quite well and ride well, right? Now, of course, they're not giving you the range of the vehicle. They say it can go 155 miles an hour. You're driving it that fast, it's not going to have much of a range. And that electric motor would eat it up like no tomorrow. And like I said, you know, they build a limited amount of Lotuses. They're saying they want to scale this and build 1,500 Lotus cars a year, all their brands together. 1,500. But then they say, 5 years from now, we're going to make 150,000 of them. Now, nobody knows, but I'm looking at a price here, and they start at $115,000, so not that many people are probably going to be rushing out to buy one. An English sports car that's been electrified and made in China. We'll see what happens. I mean, Lotus was a company that had a history of problems throughout its existence, and maybe the Chinese will make it fly, maybe not. Who knows? But 15,000 of them a year, there's enough rich people around the world to supply a usable market for them. I'm supposed to sell them all. EBG 3600 says, I have brake issues with my 2019 Nissan Frontier. I changed my brakes. After I changed the front brakes, they were dragging and smoking. I replaced both front calipers and bled the brakes, but I'm still getting C1155 code, saying the brake fluid is low, but no dash lights are on. Assuming you put the brake pads on correctly, right? If you put them on correctly, and you said they started dragging stuff after you did it, and they didn't drag before, you got crappy brake pads. Brake pads have to be made within thousandths of an inch because they fit in snug, right? I've seen it happen numerous times. Either the manufacturer made the braking material too thick, and then it's going to drag because it's too thick, right? It's got to be a certain thickness. You make it too thick, it'll drag the whole time. Or the backing plates of the pads, the metal part, were too thick and it's ramming in and sticking. You'll probably find if you go out and buy original equipment pads at the dealership and put them on, the whole problem will probably go away. Now, the C1155 code can only be tripped by really two things. Either you're low on fluid, and if you are, you'll see, and if you aren't, and that light is on, you probably broke the sensor, right? And the sensor that leads it is saying it's low when it's not. That's the only real reason I can do that, other than if there's a short in communication between the brake level sensor and the computer. If you messed with the wire, and you could have messed with that too. But I can just about guarantee you, the problem is your brake pads. I had that happen to me once. In my entire 56 years of working on cars, I had that happen once. I was working on a guy's Toyota, and he wanted to save money, so I bought him discount auto pads at a Charlie's Auto Supply store that later got bought out by O'Reilly, and put them on, same thing. They were dragging, right? So I tried different stuff, and then I finally realized the stupid pads are too thick. Then I went and bought the Toyota pads at the Toyota dealer, and no problem went away. Odds are the pads are just the wrong size. Haley, HACD, says, I have engine problems after a shop replaced the starter. My daughter has an '08 Honda Accord, 110,000 miles. The starter was going bad. Japanese Auto in North Georgia said we need a starter. They put in a starter. It turns over, but it won't start. Mechanic tells us, we need a piston rod. I wouldn't listen to a word they said. Unless they revved the engine up so bad they blew the engine, and now they just tell you, well, the car won't start. It cranks over, so we did our job, but it won't start. What probably happened, I see it all the time, the starter has a gigantic positive wire goes from the positive terminal of the battery to the starter. If you touch that on any frame part of the car, any metal part, it'll short out your computer system, right? Anytime you change a starter on a car, take the battery terminals off the battery. Now your car is electrically neutral. You can touch wires all over the place. It won't hurt anything. I would guess the idiots left the battery terminals on. And on a Honda Accord, it's kind of a pain in the butt. The starter's hidden under there. You got to reach in and pull. And all it takes is when he unbolted the wire to just let it hang and it touch the frame of the car, boom. I would tow it to another mechanic and say, what did this guy do wrong? If he says, look, he shorted this out, then start the wheels turning. Call the guy up and say, look, I took it to the mechanic, you ruined the car. See if he'll pay the other guy to fix it or whether you're going to have to hire a lawyer. But the odds are, all he did was not take the battery off. Then when you're in there working, boom, short stuff out. And then he's trying to tell you you need a new engine. You said your engine didn't knock going in, and now he says, oh, well, your rods are knocked and it won't even start. He screwed up big time, and he probably shorted stuff up. And he's just telling you the engine shot because he doesn't want to get involved in, oh, well, all this electric stuff. I'll tell him the engine's bad and they'll just get rid of the car, right? Go to another mechanic who's honest, find a guy like me, see what he says is wrong. And he might take him an hour to check through and say, yeah, he fried the computer of the car. Then you go back to that guy because those things cost a fortune. Make him pay for it for his mistake and not taking the battery cables off when he did the work. Middle guy says, I have an issue with my Mercedes S550. The temperature gauge goes high and it says engine is hot. Now the mechanic says, oh, there's nothing to do with it, drive it that way, it's not really overheating. What do you think? One, never buy an S550. Those things are endless money pits. I'll give you an example. I had a customer in Houston. His mother bought one brand new for like $112,000. And this was like 15 years ago, a long time ago, right? All that thousands of dollars for it. She ended up selling the thing for $4,000. That's all she got for the thing. They are such electrical nightmares, endless money pits, that nobody in their right mind is going to pay any money for one of those things used. They're so highly complex. They're just so totally insane. Now, the mechanic says, go ahead and drive it. It's not overheating. Well, yeah, it may not be overheating, but it's a Mercedes. If the computer thinks the car is being overheated because it got the warning lights, it's going to do all kinds of stuff to the fuel system, to the ignition system. It probably will never run correctly until that's fixed. You're going to have to find a Mercedes mechanic with a Mercedes dealer level scan tool, or just sell the thing. The response the guy gave after I gave him this answer, he says, well said, Scotty, thank you. I may sell it if the problem continues. They are very complicated indeed. Yeah, don't ever get one in the first place. And if you think, ooh, I can get one for $4,000, realize if it was $100,000 new and you're buying it for $4,000, you're buying yourself an endless money pit that either exists now or will become one as fast as you can blink. They're disposable luxury cars is what they are. You know? Back in the day, they weren't. Back in the 50s and 60s, Mercedes were like tanks, and they could run forever, and most of the stuff was mechanical. They even had mechanical fuel injection systems, but it's all electronic now, and boy, when they go bad on those things, make your head spin. Damien says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on a 2023 Bentley Flying Spur sedan? They're endless money pits. They lose their value like a stone falling down into the water, but if you got that kind of money and you want to impress your friends at the next big rap party, go ahead and buy one. But when it comes down to it, they're rolling piles of junk, just like the Rolls Royces. Anything made in England these days isn't really worth much of anything. Rock says, Scotty, I'm looking for a fun weekend car. 19 Ford Fiesta ST with a 6-speed manual or 2019 Fiat 500 Abarth with a 5-speed. Which is best and why? Okay, the Fords are decent. They stunk with automatics. The Fiestas were horrible. With the manuals, they're decent cars. The Fiat is a Fiat. Now, it's an Abarth, so it's got a little bit better engine. It's like an Alfa Romeo type engine. It's a stronger engine. You know, they're endless money pits as they age. And the Ford Fiestas only were if you had an automatic transmission, and that's a manual, so get the Ford. Randy Ramirez says, if a person gets a modern turbo GDI engine, doesn't beat it, can it last as long as a normally aspirated engine? Yes, but generally people do not drive them slow because they bought the turbo so they can go faster, right? If you had, say, a switch where you could turn the turbo off and only turn it on when you wanted a lot of acceleration, yeah, it could last the same. Acceleration and more, it's going to make the turbo kick in, and it will wear the car out faster. No matter how you took care of it, it is going to wear out faster unless you only drive 20, 30 miles an hour. As soon as you start flooring it, the turbo kicks in and it will not last as long. That's just the way that it goes. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.